So today we're looking at a video from Prager University, which, for those of you who don't know, Prager is not actually a university, they're just really pretentious, but let's dive into the video.
Are you more valuable than a dog, or a cat, or for that matter, a tree?
Well, in what way? This really depends on how you assign value. I personally value the consciousness, well-being, and rights of anything with emotions, consciousness, and an ability to suffer. So yes, I do value cats and dogs about as much as I value humans, or at the very least, I think they should have comparable rights. By the way, this is the video where most of you find out that I am a vegan. But is that a problem? Am I not supposed to be caring about animals?
One of the biggest differences between Judeo-Christian values and secular values concerns this very issue, the worth of the human being.
I like how these are the only options that he's considering. Like, there's no Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, Scientologist values that are worth considering. I mean, I know why he's doing it, to make atheism look dumb to his Christian audience, which is fine, I suppose.
According to the Judeo-Christian value system, human beings are infinitely valuable.
That doesn't seem correct, considering how many people the Judeo-Christian God condemns and tortures. I mean, why would God tell the Israelites to invade and kill so many people if he valued those people? For a God that loves and values us so much, he does find a lot of us worthy of death and infinite punishment. God loves us all, but if you're a normal person living according to your very nature, then God finds you infinitely damnable. Literally.
On the other hand, secular humanism devalues the worth of humans.
Obviously, I disagree, which is why I'm making this video in the first place, but I'm going to wait to go into it until he explains himself. But I want to point out that from here on out, he's going to freely switch between secularism, humanism, secular humanism, materialism, etc., even though those are not the same things at all. Now, I'm going to point this out where I see it, but I'm more or less going to allow it, because let's be real, let's take a look behind that thin veil and see that he's really talking about atheism, and lots of atheists hold these ideas or similar.
As ironic as it may sound, the God-based Judeo-Christian value system renders humans infinitely more valuable than any humanistic value system.
You do know that humanism is a philosophy that holds human beings as valuable, right? That's kind of the whole point and why ethics is a big deal in humanism.
The reason is simple. If there is no God, human beings are only material beings, and therefore not worth anything beyond the matter of which they are composed.
First of all, it is not necessarily true that without a God, there is only matter. That is the materialistic stance, which is not the same thing as humanism, which is what you said you were arguing against in the last statement. But no, if we're just material beings, we're not just worth the matter we're made of, because we're also social beings and emotional beings, so we value other beings and ourselves socially and emotionally. And because I believe that social interaction and emotions occur materialistically, being the result of electrical signals in our neurons, this is not inconsistent. We are worth what others value us at and what we value ourselves at. There's nothing supernatural about that.
But in the Judeo-Christian system, human beings are created in the image of God, meaning that human life is sacred.
I'm not sure how that follows, mostly because I'm not entirely sure what you mean by the image of God. If you mean that we resemble God, then not only does that not connect at all, but it also means that God looks a hell of a lot like non-human apes and monkeys. But I take it that what he's really saying is that God made us special, therefore we're special, which I guess makes sense, but I'd like to see how you can back that up.
Our secular post-Judeo-Christian society has rendered human beings less significant than at any time in Western history.
I don't think that's true. Were black people still considered as valuable or significant when they were still slaves in the US? What about communists during the Red Scares? Or Japanese Americans during World War II? or Jews in Nazi Germany, which, by the way, was a Christian country. Do we not have more human rights than we did back then? I mean, he's just stating his opinion as fact here, but there's no trend to back this up.
First, the secular denial that human beings are created in God's image has led to humans increasingly being equated with animals.
But, Dennis, we are animals. I hate to be the one to break this to you, not really, but there's no definition of an animal that excludes us, and everything about us works the same way as other mammals. And there's loads of evidence that we share a common ancestry with other modern extant apes. We are apes.
That's why, over the course of 30 years of asking high school and college students if they would first try to save their dog or a stranger, 2/3 have always voted against the person. They either don't know what they would do, or they actually vote for the dog. And many adults now vote similarly.
I couldn't find the original article because, as far as I can tell, even the abstract is hidden behind a paywall, but I did find this study by the same people asking the same question to Taiwanese students, half of which were affiliated with an Eastern religion, and they pretty much gave the same answers. This isn't a religious or cultural thing, but this seems to be just how we evolved. I found this Psychology Today article about this study, and it shows that the more familiar or close the person was to the hypothetical drowning person, the more likely they were to choose to save the person over the dog, showing that we value people who are closer and more familiar to us, regardless of culture, and in no case did the majority of people choose to save the dog over the person. Good try, though.
Why? There are two reasons. One is that, with the denial of the authority of higher values, such as religious teachings, people increasingly make moral decisions on the basis of how they feel. And since just about everybody feels more for their dog than for a stranger, many people simply choose the dog.
Regardless of religion. You forgot that part. I hate to break it to you, but morality is based on feeling. It's intuitive. Your moral judgments are simply intuitions that you make unconsciously as reactions, but it is influenced socially, so it is feeling and something that you can be taught. It's not something given to us by a god. However, if you do believe in a god, then that affects the way that you see the world and interpret situations. So yes, your religion does affect your morality somewhat, but that doesn't make it valid.
The other reason is that once you get rid of Judeo-Christian values, there's no reason for elevating human worth over that of an animal.
Sure there is. Remember this graph? Yeah, even though you may know your own dog more than your distant cousin, less than 25% of people would rather save their own pet. My point is, humans are naturally speciesist, which is the result of evolution. If humans are more inclined to help other humans, then that helps the human population to survive. So that's how we evolved to be. And sure, maybe that's just feelings, but that doesn't make it any less real.
That's why people estranged from Judeo-Christian values, including many Jews and Christians, support programs such as Holocaust on Your Plate. Holocaust on Your Plate is a campaign developed by the animal rights group People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, that teaches that there is no difference between the barbecuing of chickens in America and the burning of Jews in the Holocaust. Why? Because a human and a chicken are of equal worth.
First of all, this was just an exhibition that consisted of a series of images that compares factory farming to the Holocaust. It doesn't seem like you expressed that very clearly, and you also ignored the immense amount of flack that PETA got for this campaign. But you misunderstand the point of this campaign entirely. They weren't trying to devalue humans, they were trying to elevate the value of animals. Animal rights activists, which have nothing to do with humanism, they don't try to take humans and put them down to animals' levels, but instead they try to take animals and bring them up to the humans level. And that's a goal that I personally can get behind, me being an animal rights activist and vegan as well, although I do object to the use of Holocaust imagery to do so, and I also object to pretty much every publicity stunt that PETA does. They don't really make us look good. To me, if you have the ability to suffer, the will to avoid it, and you don't significantly harm other beings, then you should have rights. A pig's feelings aren't different from yours or my feelings, so I don't think that we should mistreat or kill pigs if we don't have to, and factory farms do that all the time. And that's why I refuse to contribute to that industry. Now, you don't have to believe that by any means, as I find that most people don't, which actually doesn't help Dennis's case. Look, I'm not trying to preach my veganism to you right now, but there is a case to be made. There is a point behind this, even if they're going about it the wrong way.
Here's an issue that is neither theoretical nor extreme. More and more people believe, as PETA does, that even if it would lead to a cure for cancer or AIDS, it would be wrong to experiment on animals.
You completely misunderstand PETA's stance. It's not that they dogmatically reject all animal testing, but instead that they don't think that animal testing is effective, helpful, cost-effective, or humane. That includes the cases of cancer and AIDS. They don't benefit from animal testing at all. And you would understand that if you even took a second to look this up on PETA's own site.
In fact, many animal rights advocates believe that even to save a human life, it would be wrong to kill a pig to obtain a heart valve.
I couldn't find PETA's stance on this, but I personally don't think that it would be worth killing a pig for a slight extension of a human's life, as would be the case in the elderly. But I mean, think about it. If we didn't consume as many animal products, we wouldn't have as much heart disease. You gotta think about these things.
The 20th century showed vividly what happens to human worth when Judeo-Christian values are abandoned. Nazi Germany and the various communist regimes all rejected Judeo-Christian values and ended up slaughtering the largest number of people in human history.
Of course, you'd bring this up. Look, here's some graphs of religion in Nazi Germany. The graph on the left is from the beginning, and the right is towards the end of the Third Reich. Notice how they're both vast majority Christian. Nazi Germany was a Christian country. The Holocaust, being the largest genocide ever, was perpetrated by Christians. Do you still stand by your point? Look, it may be difficult for someone like Dennis Prager here to understand, but these wars and genocides were not caused by, nor were they matters of religion, or the lack thereof, but instead, these had political causes and motives.
Meanwhile, human slavery was abolished only in the Judeo-Christian world.
Like the Qin dynasty and Zen dynasty in China before Christianity was a thing, or Japan, which has never been a Christian country. Sure, most countries were Christian or newly Christian when they abolished slavery, but that has a lot to do with Roman Catholicism, since Pope John VIII declared slavery to be sinful. But think about it. How could the Christian world abolish slavery if slavery wasn't already present in the Christian world? Which was the case in the UK, and especially in the US, where Christians were the ones defending slavery and fighting vehemently not to abolish it, citing the Bible. That's right, the Bible is very pro-slavery. It gives instruction on owning and treating slaves, including how much you should beat them, and it tells slaves to obey their masters no matter how harsh. Nowhere does the Judeo-Christian God condemn slavery. It's quite the opposite.
And of course, for nearly all those who reject Judeo-Christian values, the human fetus is worthless, if its mother deems it so.
That's not... Why do you want there to be children who have no body capable of giving them decent care? Why do you want to force people to have unwanted children, as if that's not going to affect the mother at all? Not only that, but in Numbers 5, it tells you how and when to get an abortion, which were to be given by priests. Not to mention the times that God caused or called for infanticides. I mean, for that matter, every stillborn is at the very least allowed by God.
Finally, there is an increasingly vocal part of the environmentalist movement that also denigrates human worth. For these individuals, the human being is not infinitely precious. Trees and rivers and mountains are.
You just don't get it, do you? There are people who care about the environment. I don't understand why that's such a crazy concept to you, considering you live on Earth, but that has nothing to do with human value, Dennis.
So, are you more valuable than a dog or a cat or a tree? That depends on your value system.
And if it's not Jewish or Christian, then it's beyond the grasp of people like Dennis Prager here.